Her hands were raw from the LYE. She had been stirring the kettle since before sunrise, boiling tallow and wood ash into soap on a Nebraska homestead in 1873. Her skirt hem touched the coals. There was no scream anyone recorded, no neighbor close enough to hear it. The county ledger gave her one line: died by burning, no name. The movies gave pioneer women a sunbonnet and a wave from the wagon seat. They never gave them this. Of all the ways the frontier killed these women, which one was truly the deadliest? And is it the one you think? Now, before we go any further, tap that subscribe button. Watch until the end. The last one will give you chills. We are not going to the movies for this. We are going to the trail diaries, the county death registers, the letters that survived in attic trunks and state archives. Between 1843 and 1869, roughly 400,000 people walked or rode west on the overland trails. Somewhere between 1 in 10 and 1 in 17 never arrived. The women's deaths, when anyone recorded them at all, got a line in a husband's journal or a single entry in a county ledger. No doctor within 100 miles. No anesthesia. Water drawn from the same river the oxen stood in upstream. These women did not die the way the screen shows. Most of them died quietly. And quiet deaths do not sell movie tickets. Number 12. LYE. Every frontier woman made soap. She had no choice. The process meant leaching wood ash into water until it turned caustic, then boiling it with animal fat in an open kettle over a fire. Catharine Beecher warned about it plainly in her domestic receipt book in 1846. One splash could blind, a full spill could kill. Women did this chore every month, stirring a pot of boiling alkali in long skirts beside an open flame. The county records that survive call these deaths scalding or accident. They almost never record the woman's name. Hollywood shows pioneer women at a spinning wheel. It has never once shown them standing over a pot that could take their face off. Number 11. Poison water. Along the Platte River route, the springs turned white with alkali. Lodisa Frizzell wrote about it in her diary in 1852. The smell hit you before you saw the water. Dead cattle bloated beside the holes, tongues black, bellies split in the sun. The families drank anyway because there was nothing else for miles. The cramps began within the hour. Add to that the lead leaching quietly from pewter cups and tin cookware, the arsenic woven into green-dyed fabric that women handled every day, the wild plants that looked right but were not. Today we test our tap water and argue about fluoride. These women knelt at a hole in the ground and prayed it would not kill their children. The frontier was a landscape of invisible poison, and the women who drew the water and prepared every meal were always the first ones exposed. Number 10. Snakebite. Not the dramatic rattlesnake standoff from the movies. A woman reaching into a woodpile at dusk. A barefoot stepping off the threshold of a dugout in Kansas. A hand brushing tall grass while gathering buffalo chips for the evening fire. Trail diaries record these deaths the way they record weather. Matter of fact. Brief. There was no antivenin anywhere on the continent. Treatment was whiskey, turpentine, or a mud poultice, and none of them worked. A bite on the hand while gathering kindling could kill in hours. A bite on the ankle could swell the leg black by morning. No one was coming to help. The nearest doctor was days away by horse, if there was a doctor at all. Remember that feeling, because it runs through every single entry on this list. These women faced the deadliest things the frontier had, with no help coming and no road out. Number 9. The wagon wheel, Amelia Stewart Knight kept a diary on the trail in 1853. She recorded her children falling, slipping, nearly crushed, over and over across hundreds of miles. The wheels were iron-rimmed and weighed hundreds of pounds. The oxen did not stop on command. A fall from the wagon seat onto hard-packed ground could break a spine. A stumble beside the wheel could pull a woman under before the driver even knew. Hollywood puts pioneer women inside the wagon, riding on cushions through the scenery. In truth, most of them walked beside it every step. The ride was bone-jarring, and the space inside was needed for flour, tools, and everything the family owned. They walked 15 miles a day, sometimes 20, in thin-soled shoes, beside a 2,000-pound machine that could kill them with one wrong step on a route or a rut. Number 8. Drowning. The Platte, the Green, the Snake, the Columbia. River crossings were the most feared stretch of any overland trail. Wagons overturned in current. Makeshift ferries capsized without warning. Women slipped on wet rock while kneeling to wash clothes at the water's edge. Their heavy wool and cotton skirts soaked through and pulled them under before anyone could reach them. The documented drownings at the Green River crossings in Wyoming alone fill pages in the emigrant records. At the Dalles of the Columbia, entire families were lost when rafts broke apart in rapids. The movies show the hero fording a river on horseback, water at the stirrups, hat still dry. They never show the woman downstream, tangled in 6 pounds of soaked fabric, who never came up. Number 7. Fire. This is the lie entry's violent partner. Cooking over an open fire in floor-length skirts was a daily gamble. The buffalo chip fires of the plains were volatile and unpredictable. A gust of wind, a shift in draft, and the hem caught. Kansas and Nebraska newspapers in the 1870s and the 1880s reported women's deaths by burning with a regularity that should disturb anyone reading them today. 3 times a day, every day, these women stood over open fire in clothing designed to catch it. Today, a kitchen burn sends you to urgent care in 20 minutes. Back then, it sent you to the grave with no one to drive you anywhere. And still, we are not yet at the cause that killed the most of them. That answer is still ahead. Number 6. Cholera. The mass killer. Cholera could take a healthy woman at breakfast and put her in the ground by nightfall. 12 hours. The epidemics along the Oregon and California trails between 1849 and 1855 are among the best documented mass death events in American westward expansion. Graves lined the trail every half-mile in the worst years. The women who nursed the sick and washed the soiled bedding had the highest sustained exposure of anyone in the wagon party. Hollywood shows the wagon train rolling west through golden light. It does not show the camp where 3 people died before noon, and no one had the strength left to dig deep enough. We are halfway through this list, and the question I asked you at the start is still open. Which one truly killed the most pioneer women? You may have already settled on your answer. I would hold that thought a little longer. Number 5. Childbed fever. Remember this one. A woman survived labor, the baby lived. And then 3 days later, the fever began. Puerperal sepsis, infection carried by unwashed hands, unsterilized instruments, and a complete absence of germ theory. Ignaz Semmelweis proved in 1847 that hand-washing could stop it. The medical establishment ignored him for decades. On the frontier, the knowledge never arrived at all. A neighbor helped deliver the baby, then went home. The mother burned with fever, delirious, the newborn crying beside her. County death registers recorded it the same way every time. Died in childbed. No further detail, no cause, no name for what killed her. Please remember number 5. We are coming back. Number 4. Exhaustion. There is no gentler word for it. They called it giving out. A woman on the Overland Trail walked 15 to 20 miles a day, often pregnant, often carrying a child on her hip. At camp, she cooked, washed, mended, hauled water, and started again at dawn. On the homestead, it was no different. Hauling, splitting, plowing, harvesting, preserving, bearing a child every 18 months to 2 years. Mary Ann Boatman's own diary describes a body that simply stopped answering. The frontier had no medical language for working a woman to death. It was not a cause of death. It was just life. And when she collapsed for the last time, the record barely noticed. Number 3. Prairie madness. The wind never stopped. Miles of grass in every direction. No tree, no neighbor, no sound, but the wind and the silence underneath it. Women on the Kansas and Nebraska and Dakota plains lived in sod houses with no window, in an isolation so total it broke them. O.E. Rovag wrote it into giants in the earth in 1927, but the asylum committal records from the period tell it without poetry. Women walked into the snow. Women drank laudanum from the medicine chest. Women set fire to the house they could not leave. The frontier offered no word for depression, no treatment for loneliness. Today, we talk about the mental health crisis in rural America, the isolation, the lack of services, the women on remote farms who cannot reach a therapist. Their great-grandmothers faced the same silence, except there was no phone and no road and no word for what was happening to them. The movies made the prairie beautiful. They never showed what the silence did to the woman standing alone inside it. We are almost there now. The top 2 are both about the same thing. And the real answer to my question may not be either of them. Number 2, hemorrhage. Uncontrolled bleeding during or just after labor, far from any surgical help. A retained placenta, a torn uterus. A breech birth gone wrong in a cabin lit by one candle. There was no cesarean section that a frontier woman could survive. Most births were attended by a midwife or a neighbor or no one at all. When the bleeding started, there was nothing to stop it. No sutures, no transfusion, no ambulance. Today, maternal hemorrhage is treatable in any hospital in this country within minutes. Back then, it meant DIing on a dirt floor while your husband stood outside the door and listened. Frontier physician records from Western state historical societies describe these deaths in clinical language that still reads like horror. The movies occasionally show a frontier birth, a scream, a cry a healthy baby, a tired but smiling mother. They cut away before the blood. They always cut away. Number 1, childbirth itself, the full weight of it. A frontier woman could expect to be pregnant or nursing for most of her adult life. 6 pregnancies, 8, 10, 12. Each one a roll of the dice with no doctor holding the odds. Eclampsia, obstructed labor, breech presentation, prolapsed uterus, ectopic pregnancy that no frontier physician could diagnose, let alone treat. There were no forceps in most cabins, no chloroform, no clean hands. The odds compounded with every child. Maternal mortality on the frontier is estimated at roughly 1 death for every 100 live births. Some estimates run higher. A woman who bore 8 children faced something close to an 8% chance of dying somewhere in the process. Today, the maternal death rate in this country is roughly 23 per 100,000 live births, and we call that a crisis. On the frontier, it was closer to 1,000 per 100,000, and no one called it anything at all. In Wyandotte County, Kansas, a woman named only as Mrs. Brewer in the 1868 County Register bore 7 children and died with the 8th. One line, no first name. That is all the record kept of her. So, number 1, the answer the list has been building toward. Childbirth killed more pioneer women than anything else on the frontier. That much everyone knows. Even Hollywood knows it. But here is where the record says something the movies never will. It was not labor that killed most of these women. It was not the pain, the screaming, the drama a camera could capture. It was what came after. The fever, the infection, the silence 3 to 5 days later. The Western genre, from John Ford to every mini-series that followed, reduced the pioneer woman to a figure in a doorway or a name on a grave marker. Never the cause, never the process, never the slow burn of a fever no one on the frontier understood. The Victorian press would not print the details. The husbands who wrote the diaries could not bring themselves to describe them. The myth was not built by one liar. It was built by an entire culture that could not say out loud what killed its own mothers. The deadliest entry on this list is not number 1. It is number 5. Childbed fever, puerperal sepsis, the invisible infection that followed the one event everyone remembers, but no one tells honestly. It killed quietly, 3 days after the birth, carried on the hands of the very people trying to help. Semmelweis knew. He proved it. And the world looked away for another 40 years. The women on the frontier never had a chance. Somewhere in Kansas, underground that was plowed over a century ago, there is a woman who survived the trail. She survived the river. She survived the winter. She bore a healthy child in a sod house with no doctor and no light, but a tallow candle. And 3 days later, a fever no one could see took her from a family that never wrote down her first name. Which one would you have feared most? Tell me below. And if you want the truth behind another frontier story the movies got wrong, the next one is already waiting for you.